Imagine the primal fear of the Comanche moon. A whisper on the wind, a shadow in the night, and then the thunder. The terrifying, magnificent thunder of the Comanche, lords of the southern plains. What drove these warriors to raid with such ferocity, to become the absolute masters of a vast, unforgiving empire? How did a single tribe, seemingly against all odds, halt the relentless expansion of Spanish, Mexican, and later, Anglo-American empires? Tonight, we journey into the heart of Comancheria, unearthing the stories, the sorrows, and the unbreakable spirit behind the legendary Comanche war raids, all rooted in meticulous historical accounts and profound human insights. For nearly 2 centuries, from the early 1700s to the late 1800s, the Comanche reigned supreme. Their empire, forged on the back of the horse, stretched across what is now Texas, Oklahoma, and beyond. According to Pekka Hämäläinen's authoritative The Comanche Empire, the Comanche didn't just adapt to the horse, they became the horse, a symbiotic force of nature that redefined warfare on the plains. Their horsemanship was unparalleled, their arrows swift, their raids devastating. But these were not simply acts of aggression, they were complex expressions of a vibrant culture, a strategic defense, and a relentless pursuit of resources vital to their survival. Consider the terror of a settler family. The year is 1836. The small, isolated community of Fort Parker is a beacon of hopeful, fragile expansion into Comanche territory. One quiet morning, that hope shattered. A raiding party, including warriors from the Comanche and allied tribes, descended. In that moment, the plains fell silent, save for the screams. The Fort Parker massacre became etched into the frontier's collective memory, a stark reminder of the brutal realities of encroachment. Among the captives taken that day was a 9-year-old girl named Cynthia Ann Parker. For the Comanche, raids were not just about plunder, they were a way of life, a test of courage, and a means to acquire horses, goods, and captives. These captives were often assimilated, not merely held. A 2010 Texas State Historical Association article confirms that many, like Cynthia Ann Parker, became integral members of the tribe. She would eventually marry Peter Nakona, a fierce Comanche chief, and bear him children, including the legendary Quanah Parker. Can you imagine the profound cultural chasm, and yet, the human capacity for adaptation and belonging? Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in such a predicament? We read every word you share. By the 1840s, the conflict reached a boiling point. The Council House fight of 1840 in San Antonio, intended as a peace negotiation, devolved into a bloody massacre of Comanche chiefs and their families. This betrayal ignited a furious response, the Great Raid of 1840. Imagine Buffalo Hump, a visionary war chief, leading hundreds of warriors deep into Anglo settlements, a retaliatory strike of unprecedented scale. He moved like a storm across the landscape, reaching the coast, leaving a trail of destruction. For a Comanche warrior on that raid, it was a moment of fierce pride, reclaiming what was lost, avenging the fallen. But the settlers rallied. The Battle of Plum Creek saw Texas Rangers and volunteers, aided by Tonkawa scouts, turn the tide. A Tonkawa scout, perhaps, felt a conflicted pride, aiding the Texans against an old enemy, yet knowing the deeper threat to all native peoples loomed large. The relentless cycle of raid and reprisal, of fear and vengeance, spiraled. The Comanche, once the undisputed rulers, faced an ever-growing tide of settlers, armed with superior firepower and a relentless drive for land. This was a clash of worlds, a fundamental misunderstanding of ownership, sovereignty, and even human dignity. But a more insidious enemy had arrived long before the settlers' wagons. Smallpox epidemics, introduced by Europeans, ravaged the Comanche population, reducing their numbers drastically. And then, the buffalo. Their very lifeline. The systematic extermination of the buffalo herds, often encouraged by the U.S. government, was a devastating blow to the Comanche way of life. Have you ever faced a moment where survival meant defying all odds, only to have the very ground beneath you crumble? The final, brutal chapter unfolded during the Red River War of 1874. Faced with dwindling resources, constant pressure, and the loss of their vital buffalo, the Comanche, led by figures like Quanah Parker, the son of Peter Nakona, and Cynthia Ann Parker, fought with a desperate, heartbreaking courage. But the era of the free-roaming Comanche was over. The U.S., Armies' relentless campaigns forced them onto reservations. Their world shattered under the weight of loss, displacement, and a future they could never have imagined. Yet, the story doesn't end in defeat. The Comanche spirit, forged in the crucible of war and survival, endured. Lipan Apaches, a living bridge between two worlds, led his people with wisdom and foresight into the reservation era, adapting, advocating, and preserving their cultural heritage. The Comanche war raids were more than just historical events, they were a testament to an indomitable will, a profound connection to the land, and a tragic collision of cultures. The story of the Comanche reminds us of the complexities of history, the human cost of expansion, and the enduring power of resilience in the face of unimaginable change. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Comment below, what does the Comanche spirit teach us today? Subscribe for more stories that bring history to life.